Sports, everybody. I'm Nick.
And I'm Darren.
Thank you so much for coming back to us. It's always a pleasure to talk about everything in the MMA world. First and foremost, I want to get out our website there where we upload everything daily. It's like the front page of the newspaper. We leave no stone unturned, truly. PFPsports.com is the website, and I also want to mention that we are going to be on San Diego ESPN 1700. We're getting ready to sign a contract with them next week, so we will keep you posted in the coming weeks, and we're going to try and put our site and link the two websites, ESPN and PFP Sports, together, and we're going to set up a whole streaming thing for you guys. So with that, we got a special guest on the phone, real interesting guy coming from the East Coast. He's the founder, president of Champion Xtreme Combat. He is the GM for Champion Training Center Martial Arts Academy. They represent pro and amateur athletes in various sport combat disciplines. I really like this guy because he believes in a hands-on approach to promoting. He has intimate knowledge of combat. He trains regularly and consults with Jacare Cavalcante, Master Lloyd Irvin, Dean Thomas, and actually one of my favorite guys, Mustin Corbry. We had him on the show, I want to say a few months back, and I've been following his Twitter and his Facebook, and I had no idea how political that guy was. A real interesting guy. So, Kevin, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. And yourself, Nick?
We're doing fantastic, man. Thank you so much for being on the show. I was thinking to myself, I'm pretty sure you're a big fan of jiu-jitsu, being involved with Jacare and Master Lloyd Irvin. I was wondering, first off, what's it like rolling with those guys and seeing them and training with them on a daily basis?
Well, actually, I haven't rolled with Jacare in years. I started with him at Alliance in Atlanta, and I left there at Blue Belt, which was some years ago, and but Jacare and I we've kept a good relationship over the years and everything. Whenever I see him, I'm glad to see him. I saw he got his promoted to red belt, and really excited about the progress of the team. Alliance is doing major things. Currently, I'm with Team Lloyd Irvin. Lloyd and I are friends. And I actually introduced Lloyd and Massin years ago.
Oh, no kidding.
When Massin first started, and put them together, and I sent Massin actually to Maryland to train with Lloyd, because Massin was doing really well in the local circuits. I mean, he had a win over Marcos Avalon at the time, who's a phenomenal athlete, especially grappler, and I think Massin was a little full of himself at the time, so what I did is I sent him up there to train with Lloyd, and needless to say, Lloyd kind of straightened that out within like 5 minutes.
Are you serving a little humble pie over there, or what? Did you get? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Did he serve him a little humble pie over there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was a little humble pie and then some. I mean, it was some nose honking and clowning and kind of making fun of, during that training session. Now, the funny thing about it is Lloyd walked into this training session on crutches.
Oh, no kidding.
And, yeah, he pulled the little Yoda on Massin. He came in the gym wearing crutches and set the crutches to the side and went out and proceeded to tear Massin a new one. So,
wow, that's rough.
Massin kind of got the hang. He really understood that it's a difference between, grappling on a local circuit and when you're dealing with world-class competitors and trainers. I did the same thing with him and Manu and Toe also.
Wow.
Manu went and showed him basically, you can't stand in here a minute with me without, being knocked out. So, and Massin really, he's a sponge, man. He just picks it up, and he has a really good discipline. The guy doesn't party. I mean, he has fun, but he's not I don't have to worry about him being in clubs and getting in trouble. The only thing I worry about, for the most part, is him being, politics sometimes gets the better of him.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say super.
Other than that,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
other than that, he's really, really easy to manage.
Yeah, I was going to say he's a super political guy. I mean, obviously he's an intelligent guy. I mean, he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a real interesting guy also, just because he's kind of been around since really the beginning of MMA becoming mainstream.
Yes. He's been there for a minute. We bubbled for a long time, and then it was difficult to get fights for him. And then we got a couple opportunities, and some of the opportunities didn't come at the right time. Our tenure at in the WC was at a tumultuous time as far as business-wise. We were moving the gym and doing a lot of transitioning from one city to the next. And, but he showed well and everything else, and now he's on a tear now. He's coming back, really, really strong. He has a lot to show.
No doubt.
You know what, Najeeb, but you're a promoter, and I'm sure you've experienced firsthand, last-minute replacements, fighters not being able to perform the night of the fight, telling you last second. As a promoter, how frustrating is it, when a card's got to shuffle around like that last second?
I mean, it's kind of tough, Me, I would always overmatch the fight. So, if I need to have, I think it was 24 rounds in the state of Georgia, I match up for close to like 30 to 32 rounds.
Oh, nice.
Because injuries do happen, and mixed martial arts is a dynamic sport. So, I mean, guys are trained in so many different things, so you're susceptible to so many different types of injuries. I mean, a guy can get a wrestling injury, a guy could get, a cut from boxing. He can injure his leg from kickboxing. Any of these different disciplines that they're involved in preparation for the fight, they could get injured. The most frustrating of all the things that hold a fighter out of a fight or anything is not making weight.
Yeah.
That's the most frustrating. Anything else I can, as I was saying, not making weight is the most frustrating, because especially if your opponent's made weight and everybody's ready, and that's their primary duty, coming into the fight is to prepare. And that's a part of preparation for the fight.
Yeah, you mentioned the injuries, and that leads me to my next question. Especially, we got the big UFC right now, and injuries have really affected UFC in the recent months. What, in your opinion, is there anything that could change to kind of keep these guys healthy in training camps? I mean, we're expecting these guys to go out and perform, so it's kind of hard to tell them to scale back their training. But anything you think that could change that?
I don't know. I think what's happening, it may be MMA nowadays. They're trying to find their own identity, and I think everything's crossed up. It used to be mixed martial arts used to truly be mixed martial arts, where you'd have a kickboxer versus a jiu-jitsu guy, and now with all of the cross training and everything, it's just too. I think it's just a very, very dynamic sport, and you're going to have those types of injuries. Wrestlers tend to strengthen those muscles, the muscles that they use in wrestling, for years and years, and kickboxers the same. When a kickboxer starts wrestling and a wrestler starts kickboxing, they're using a different muscle group, so they tend to injure themselves. So I don't know if there's anything in particular that can be done with the training injuries or anything like that. I think the strength and conditioning is playing a strong part now. People have strength and conditioning coaches, and I think that helps. But I mean, apparently the last UFC, I think they probably changed the whole card.
Yeah, no, they did. The main event and shuffling around main events, and that's a great point. 10 years ago in MMA, the level of competition we have out there now is it's crazy on just the level and the skill these people have to train with. I think that goes a long way in getting some of these injuries. So, 10 years ago we hear about some of the main guys in the sport not being able to find anybody to train with, and I think that's one of the biggest things, me personally anyway.
Well, yeah, you mentioned a good point, and not just that, but even at the highest level, you're talking about Olympic caliber athletes now, and no matter what level you're at, everybody's aspiring to go to the top, and you just mentioned it right there. The fact is, you got kickboxers, trying to train wrestling now, but that's the nature of the beast. That's what the sport demands nowadays.
Definitely.
I was going to ask you, just being a promoter and somebody that's been around the business and promotes in several states, what do you think about smaller promotions? Where obviously smaller promotions, you get a little bit of everything. It's fun to pay your dues and you get to see everything starting from the ground floor. And one thing I notice is a lot of camps that are kind of out there for notoriety and being able to say, hey, we train fighters and this and that. Meanwhile, you look at the professional record of the camp and they don't really have a lot of wins. Do you really experience that, or do you see that a lot on the East Coast where people are out there for the money and the notoriety and not necessarily the fighter safety?
Yeah, definitely. I've seen guys sign off on saying a guy trains with them and has been training for X amount of time, and then the guy gets in the ring and looks horrible. It looks like he's never trained a day in his life. At the same time, I've seen some camp sandbag, and they get a guy in there and said, "Oh yeah, he's been with me for a short period of time," and the guy goes out there and looks phenomenal. I think that what's going to start happening is that the commissions are going to start holding these coaches and these trainers accountable. In Georgia, for instance, you have to sign. Your coach has to sign off for you to get licensed. That you've been training X amount of months, and that they're basically saying that you're qualified to fight. I've not heard of anyone getting sanctioned for saying someone's qualified to fight when their performance has been really poor, but I'd imagine that would play a part. And a lot of these coaches and trainers need to really pay attention to who they're putting their guys out there with. You've got world-class Muay Thai fighters, boxers, and jiu-jitsu players and wrestlers coming over, even in the amateur portion of the sport, and they're going against a guy, and there are camps out there that's putting guys out there that's been training for 2 months.
Yeah, no,
and,
I mean,
that's when you end up with guys that are way outclassed, and they can seriously get themselves hurt.
Well, yeah, that's what we've seen actually on some local regional promotions. Is you see guys that are well on their way. You see guys that have no business being in there at all, and a lot of times what promoters will say is, hey, it's okay if you have 25 professional losses. You're still young, you got time. But the fact is, everybody's aspiring to go to the top. You can't really do anything with that many losses on your record. And, you mentioned actually a really good point is that you see guys kind of sandbag, and I actually see that even on the jiu-jitsu circuit. You go to Worlds or Pan Ams, and you'll see a guy that just got his purple belt, but in the competition he's wearing his old blue belt, and he's outclassing everybody in that in that weight class, that division. It's really unfortunate, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I was thinking the same thing myself. Another good question. Do you think that judging is as bad in MMA as it is in boxing these days? And if so, what can be done to fix judging in combat sports?
I think it's worse. I think that the MMA judging is. I have to, keep it 100. When I watched, I think it was Melvin Gilliard fighting. I think he just fought. I may say his name improperly. Camoes.
Camoes, I think. Fabricio Camoes, his last fight, right?
Yes, his last fight.
Yeah, Camoes.
I mean, in my opinion, Melvin Gilliard didn't win a single round. I mean, he had moments during rounds, but he didn't win a round. And somebody had a 30-27.
Yeah.
I've seen several of those, and it's one thing in boxing if you have a bad angle, and depends on what the judge likes to see and whatnot. But I think that the judging in MMA is I have not been able to figure it out at all. So I mean, I think I'm all for telling my guys just go out there and knock the dude out, because I mean, you could utterly dominate the fight and end up losing.
Well, yeah, no, that's actually really good advice. I mean, sometimes you kind of get backed into a corner there. And, I said it a couple weeks ago on the show, what I think needs to be done is these judges, obviously, everybody needs to get on the same page. And I tend to believe you sometimes with MMA just because there's so many components everybody else is looking at. I mean, you get a boxing guy that's not scoring effective grappling the correct way, and vice versa. I mean, you get a grappling judge that, he's not scoring the effective striking either. So, I mean, I think probably what they should do is have all these guys go to each component. If you're going to watch, state championship wrestling, NCAA, go to the jiu-jitsu tournaments. I mean, all these guys should be required to, be proficient, and show, basic competence, with each facet of mixed martial arts. Don't you think?
Exactly. I mean, it's like I said before, it blows my mind. Some of the fights that I've seen and listened to the results. I just can't figure it out.
On that note, do you think Pacquiao got screwed versus Bradley?
Actually, this is going to be. A lot of people don't agree with me on this, but I was watching the fight. I was with Stephen Bass. He's another one of our guys. He was on Ultimate Fighter, I think, 2 seasons ago.
Right.
And we have a crew, Brian Robertson. Also, he's extensive Muay Thai background. And we were all together watching the fight. And I actually said that I thought Timothy Bradley won the fight.
What'd they say?
But I told them that I personally, if I was judging the fight, and this is going to sound funny, but I wouldn't have given it to him. I would have still given it to Pacquiao because I don't think he took the champion's title.
Right.
But I think he outscored Pacquiao. And I think what happened is that the hype around it and the crowd and everybody really overemphasized what Pacquiao did in the fight. And Pacquiao fought like garbage the past 3 fights. And Pacquiao used to be my second favorite fighter behind Mayweather. Now Donaire's in front of him.
He's a stud.
And Amir Khan is kind of moving up in front of him also. But he is still in my top 5. I love Pacquiao. However, he's just not really fought his past 3-4 fights. And in this fight, he just got out-touched. I mean, and then punch stats was way off. If Pacquiao hits somebody in the face that many times, there won't be any face left.
Right? Yeah, you didn't see that. Yeah. No, it's an interesting perspective. I mean, it's very hard to argue with. I mean, everybody's looking at something different. I actually, I respectfully disagree, but, I do think that Bradley, he showed brilliance in certain parts of the fight, and there were some rounds that were very close. I mean, it's kind of goes back to what you're saying, sometimes you just got to finish somebody. That's the bottom line. Right. And one of the things I looked at is that they had one guy put a post up on YouTube, and he's like slowed it down. And a lot of the things that a lot of people that aren't really astute in boxing don't really understand is like when you're parrying shots and things like that. A lot of those shots, Timothy Bradley's face looked the same after the fight as it did going into the fight. And Pacquiao breaks people's faces. He does.
I think he was a little bit off, a little bit short. But then again, Bradley didn't do much to win the fight either. I mean, he didn't mark Pacquiao at all either. Just, pity-patted him and moved a lot. I think it was an ugly fight.
Yeah, really unfortunate for the fans.
Yeah, I agree with you. You mentioned Stephen Bass, a guy that you manage. We haven't seen him since he fought in the TUF 14 finale. I think it was last December. Does he have anything on his dance card? What's going on with him?
Well, we're trying to get him healthy again. Going into the Ultimate Fighter, Stephen had a double hernia, and it was a really bad one. Bad two, both of them. And what happened is right before we went in, while he was in the house, he realized that he probably had it was actually 3, and they missed one. So we never said anything. He went through the show. Stephen's a stud. He went through the show afterwards. He just had surgery and came off. I think 2 weeks ago he was approved to go ahead and start training again, but he went ahead and had the surgery again. And like I said, the kid is tough. He was back in the gym doing conditioning, like running and staying in shape. This is the best I've ever seen him. His weight is good. He's just starting to grapple again. I look to see him. We're probably going to get him something probably within the next 3 to 4 months. And then he'll be, tearing it up again. And he's really, really been improving his striking.
Can't wait to see. Another thing we've been talking about on the show the last couple of weeks in MMA is immediate rematches. Where do you stand on immediate rematches? Do you think it kills the sports? I mean, shouldn't the sport of MMA be bigger than the athletes itself?
Yeah, I think it's horrible. I think what's happened is I think in the 155 category we've seen the same 2 guys fight for 4 or 5 years, something like that.
I know.
I think it's horrible. I think if it were like say Anderson Silva, who has multiple defenses and everything else, I think he deserves to get an immediate rematch. But with all of these hungry guys out there, you got Nate Diaz that's been chomping at the bit. Ben Henderson is a stud. He did his thing, but the Frankie Edgar trilogies with everybody who he's fought. I like Frankie. I think he's a great fighter. But just seeing them fight over and over and over again, like when I saw, I can't really comment on the Clay Guida fight with Gray Maynard. I was just kind of tired of seeing Gray, but I'd never ever want to see Clay fight again.
Yeah, not after that getting on the bike like that.
That was disgusting.
You mentioned on Twitter, I was looking at your Twitter, you mentioned that you're a big Jim Lampley fan. I was wondering how that came about.
It was kind of a joke. To be honest. Jim Lampley, I find that I don't understand where any of his point of view comes from on anything. It's like he's always kind of opposite of what I think. So that was kind of an inside joke.
Yeah, no, he. You know, what's funny is I've been watching Jim Lampley for a number of years too, and he always back in the day he would always disagree with George Foreman. It seems like every time they have like a third color commentator on there, man, and they happen to have a professional fighting background, for some reason, you're right, he seems to be at odds with the people that have actually been in the ring themselves.
Yeah, it's funny, and he speaks as though he's the one with the most experience, and I can see it even if he didn't fight. If he was like in the gyms, in that. But I mean, to my knowledge, I don't know if he has any background in combat sports at all.
I've never seen.
I don't even know if he knows the phone number to a gym.
It's an interesting point, man. I had to ask. I was dying to ask you that. Speaking of boxing, coming into this weekend, who do you think wins versus Amir Khan versus Danny Garcia? Who takes that fight? I'm
kind of pulling for Amir Khan. But Danny Garcia is no joke. I watched. He just fought. I think it was Eric Morales, if I'm not mistaken. I think Amir wins. Amir needs to move his head, though. I mean, he gets hit. But as far as the speed and power at that weight, I can't see any. I mean, the way he blew. What's the kid's name that fought? From the New York guy.
Who? Amir Khan.
Yeah, Amir Khan beat him, and he said that he was hit low or something like that. It was some
I'm drawing a blank, too. It's hard when you got to remember, 10,000 names out there. Sometimes you draw a blank. It happens.
Yeah, the guy that had the fiasco with Mayweather. Man, it's on the tip of my tongue.
The guy that had the fiasco with Mayweather? Yeah.
He punched Roger Mayweather in the back of the head.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. But you think Amir Khan's chin might be suspect?
Well, not so much his chin. I think it's tough. He just won't move his damn head, man.
Got to keep it on a swivel.
It's like with that type of speed, you got to kind of get out of the way also.
For sure.
And he has a lot of speed and power, but it seems like he sits there like his speed is going forward, not evading so much. If you understand what I'm saying. It's
absolutely.
Like, I don't like to see him get hit that much.
Well, don't you think? He's definitely. He's coming from a camp, in my opinion, the best camp out there in Freddie Roach's wild card gym. You think Freddie will fix that?
Yeah, I think Freddie will. Honestly, I think sometimes fighters have tendencies too. Just like all the work that went into the late Diego Corrales. I mean, they couldn't fix that. I mean, there's some things that is kind of in the fighter, but Amir's young, so we hadn't seen that yet. And now he's just hitting where he's fighting real high-level fighters. But the guy's phenomenal. I mean, like I said, he's in my top 5.
For sure. Yeah, I can't wait to see that fight either. I was watching the press conference and just, everything Amir Khan says to Danny Garcia and his trainers is, I don't know. I'm always guilty of drinking the Kool-Aid, man. I can't wait to see that fight either. Real quick, I wanted to mention out there, to a lot of people out there that you're a licensed promoter in like 7 or 8 states, California and New York being one of them. What do you think about the California MMA bill? I think they call it AB 2100. It basically what it is it makes the promoters have to financially disclose everything, and they have to adhere to a number of standards before they can then receive compensation from any contest. Do you agree with that? I mean, it's designed to help fighters and everybody long term, but do you think that hurts the sport or at least promotion in California?
Well, I'm actually in California. I was licensed as a second as a manager. I think it's a good bill. I think that there has to be some transparency between promotions and the fighters, especially when you have in promotion. I mean, you have a guy that, say for instance, the UFC, which is the big show right now. You can have a guy that's making like $70,000 for the fight to show, fighting a guy that's coming in to make $4,000.
Yeah,
I think that is the major problem.
It's a bit lopsided.
The level of preparation that a guy can even afford to have. You're coming in and you're I wouldn't say $4,000. Say if he's making $10,000 for it, but you're fighting. You can't really even afford to prepare to fight a guy like that. And that's one thing I will say, with boxing. Boxing doesn't do that. I mean, you can, if you're fighting at a higher level, if you're fighting a guy that's getting paid a whole lot, typically you're going to get a pay bump also. But in the UFC, you have your contract. So if your contract states that you're coming in and you're starting at 6-6 or You know,
Right.
I mean, I'm a little controversial. I don't like that 6-6 stuff either. I think that's garbage.
Yeah,
I think once a guy's proven, you need to pay him his purse.
for sure. I mean, your window as a fighter is only so big. I mean, it's smaller than any other professional sport out there. I mean, these guys got to get paid for sure. I also want to throw out there, you got a background in the project management, so it tends to lead to a well-oiled operation and a superb execution of the CTC experience. Are you guys working on any promotions currently on the East Coast or on the West Coast right now?
Actually, we are. We're in the process of putting something together. I can't really disclose it. It's we've been talking to the United States military to doing something with them. So we're looking at doing something probably towards the end of this year. A pretty nice sized show here, and I'm excited to hopefully have Masen headline it, as well as Claire. She'll be my first female fight.
Oh, great.
That I've ever had.
Fantastic.
Her name is Claire Haig. She's fighting out of Luxembourg by way of Thailand. She's like a monster.
Yeah. Well, what a great opportunity to go out there. I'm sure there's no shortage of red tape to cut through on that one, is there?
That's the thing. It's like, 1 minute it seems like they want to promote, next minute it's like they don't want to do it, and they want to be involved, and they want to say, okay, you can't say that they're involved. It's
just a whole slew of things.
My thing is, I'd just like to do something for the troops too. I'm a veteran, and we have a lot of guys who are rotating in and out of combat theaters and whatnot, and they love the sport. So I think we should at least give them a good opportunity to be right up and close and personal.
I absolutely agree with you. Najeeb, do you have a Twitter or a Facebook where everybody can check this out and stay posted?
Yes. My Twitter's under Kevin Najeeb Odom. Facebook is under Najeeb Odom.
Fantastic.
And we also have Champions Fight Group on Twitter.
Champions Fight Group on Twitter. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Kevin Najeeb Odom, he is the founder and president of Champion Extreme Combat. Najeeb, thank you so much for being on our show. I really, really appreciate your time and staying up over there for us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have a good night.
All righty.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Good night.
That conducts our interview, ladies and gentlemen. We're on ESPN Radio, 1700 XEPE San Diego. We will be right back. Stay tuned.